In this video, I'm going to show you how to become a good sleeper by reverse engineering what good sleepers actually do and comparing it to what those with insomnia do so that you can know exactly what you need to change to start sleeping better tonight. If you don't know me already, my name's Andrew Ernst and I'm a sleep coach for business owners, and it's my mission specifically to help you fix your sleep and get rid of insomnia in the quickest time frame possible. So let's jump into the lesson. First, I want to talk about why business owners are more prone to getting insomnia than other people. And the reason why is very simple. Because as business owners, as you know, we live lives that are more stressful on average than those who are not business owners. We have additional responsibilities like team members, deadlines, and all these different things, revenue, all that stuff, that causes us to have a lot more stress in our lives on average. And what this does in our bodies is it causes a stress hormone called cortisol to go up and up and up. And the more stressed you are, the more cortisol that you have. And cortisol actually reduces our body's ability to produce melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone that allows us to sleep better. So as business owners, when it becomes nighttime, all that stress of the business we typically bring with us into the bed. And so we sit there ruminating and thinking about all the different things going on that are bothering us, and it causes that cortisol to go way up, and then our melatonin is trashed, right? And that's just one of many reasons, but just know that as a business owner, you're more prone to having sleep issues than regular people for these reasons. Now let's look at a quick comparison of some of the things that Insomniacs do differently than what good sleepers do, so you can figure out where maybe you're making mistakes and switch it to what you need to be doing instead. And the first one is that Insomniacs try to force themselves to fall asleep. They try to control sleep. They try to make it happen, right? And this typically happens once you've had a few bad nights in a row or a long string of bad nights in a row. You think, okay, I got to do something to fix this. And so you go on the internet and you look up all kinds of different solutions and sleep hacks and things, and then you start trying them, but then they don't work, or they work only for a little bit. So then you think, I got to try more. I got to do other things. And with sleep, it's sort of paradoxical where the more things you try to do to force yourself to fall asleep, the harder it is to actually sleep. And the reason why is because when you're doing this stuff to try and make yourself sleep, you're constantly monitoring to see if it's working. And that self-monitoring causes the brain to stay awake. Now, good sleepers, they allow sleep to happen naturally. They trust in their body's ability to sleep, and they don't actually think about sleep in any way. They just feel sleepy at the usual time that they go to bed, and then they go lay down and sleep happens, right? That's because sleep is something that you can't control at all. It's actually an unconscious process that happens to us automatically when our anxiety is low and when we've been awake long enough for our body to actually feel sleepy, because we have something called a sleep drive, right? That builds throughout the day, right? And we're going to talk about how to maximize your sleep drive. And so good sleepers, they feel that sleep drive hit its maximum point. That's when they feel sleepy, heavy eyelids, kind of nodding forward like this, right? Starting to reach those first stages of sleep. And then they just go lay down and they fall asleep. They don't think about it at all, right? And so that's one of the major differences. And on that same note, Insomniacs, they typically try to go to bed before they feel actually sleepy, right? And usually the reason why they do that is because they feel like they need to catch up on sleep, or they think that if they try to go to bed early, they'll get more sleep overall. But unfortunately, if you try to go to bed before your sleep drive has reached its peak, which usually takes around 17 hours of being awake, you're going to end up laying in bed wide awake because the body's not ready for sleep yet. And once you lay there wide awake, and then it starts the process, right? Now you're like, okay, why am I not falling asleep? The night is shot, right? And within just a short period of time, you get into this negative spiral that makes it very difficult to fall asleep, because now you're raising that cortisol and those stress hormones, and the brain is just too hyperactive to initiate sleep to happen. Good sleepers, on the other hand, they don't try to go to bed until they genuinely feel sleepy, right? Until they feel like, you know what, I can't go on anymore, whatever they're doing. They just feel like they're starting to fall asleep. So then that's when they go to bed. They don't try and go to bed early or before this sleepiness hits, because it just doesn't make sense to them, right? And so the way to actually take advantage of this is through something called the 17-hour rule, which I talk about all the time, which I learned about from Daniel Erickson, where from the moment you wake up, there's basically an internal timer that starts to to build. And over time, and what's happening is your brain is accumulating something called adenosine, however you want to say it. And this is like a waste product of the brain. And once it gets to a certain point, that's when your body starts to initiate sleep, and so that it can clear that stuff out. And this usually takes about 17 hours of continuously being awake. And unfortunately with Insomniacs, they'll try to take naps, they'll try to sleep in, or they'll try to go to bed early. So they never quite catch this nice rhythm of 17 hours of being awake. So the sleepiness doesn't hit at the right time. So that's very key to know. The third difference is that when an insomniac wakes up in the middle of the night, they start to panic that the next day they're not going to have any energy, right? They start to worry about, it's 2 a.m. I barely fell asleep just a little bit ago. I'm not going to be able to fall back asleep. Tomorrow's going to be a terrible day. I'm going to be so low energy on all this stuff, right? And they start that cycle again, right? Of that self-monitoring and that negative self-talk, and that activates more of that stress hormones in the brain and makes sleep very, very difficult. Good sleepers, if they can't sleep or they wake up in the middle of the night, it doesn't bother them that much. They might think, this kind of sucks, but they're definitely not going to sit there and worry about the next day and, tear negative mental images and all this stuff in their mind. They're just going to kind of brush it off. And by brushing it off, that is actually the best way for you to be able to just fall back asleep naturally anyway. So consider that if you've been waking up in the middle of the night and panicking and getting upset, that could be the reason why you're having a hard time falling back asleep. Fourth, this is something that I was guilty of for a very long time. Insomniacs, especially once they get into sleep tracking and using devices and things, they tend to become obsessed with the data, right? For me, when I was heavily into sleep tracking, even if I thought that I slept well and I woke up feeling good, I would check my watch. And if it said I slept poorly, I would be like, oh man, I thought I slept well. I guess I slept like shit. I guess I'm just a bad sleeper. Like, even when I think I sleep well, it's not good. And then some nights I would sleep terribly and the watch would say I slept great. And it was very confusing to me. And unfortunately, I don't think that these devices are as accurate as they're marketed to be. And I think they're just technology, right? They can make mistakes. And the truth is, if you're going by just what the data says, you can get into this place where you're super obsessed about it and you're laying in bed wondering, am I going to get a good score tonight? What's my watch going to say? And this, again, leads to that hyperarousal in the mind, which will interfere with your sleep drive. So I'm not a fan of any of these tracker devices at all. And I don't think that they help if you have insomnia. I don't think they're the solution. So good sleepers, they don't track their sleep. They don't worry about it. They don't care what a device says. They go by how they feel, right? And this allows them to have, one less piece of things to worry about when it comes to sleep, because it's not even in their reality. And so if you're reverse engineering what good sleepers do, it might be a good choice for you to forget all about the sleep tracking devices, at least for a little while, and see if it improves your sleep. I know it liberated me personally, and I never wear those devices, even though I have every single one of them. I purposely never use them anymore, and I just keep them as a reminder that they're unnecessary. All right, now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what makes good sleepers actually good sleepers. And the first part is their beliefs, right? They believe that sleep is something that's just going to work for them every single night, that it's not something that they have to take any effort towards doing. Whereas insomniacs believe that they have to make themselves sleep, like we were talking about before. And this belief that you have to cause sleep to happen in some way causes us to try all these different things. And like I said before, the more effort you put into sleeping, the harder it becomes to sleep, because it's a passive process, right? So in order for you to learn this, you have to think back, okay, what are the times where I fell asleep effortlessly, where, every single time you've ever fallen asleep, it was effortless, because you don't actually, just think about it this way. When let's say you're watching a movie with your family or something like that, it's getting late. You don't actually notice the moment you fall asleep watching the movie. You notice the moment you wake up. Right? And it's like, oh, it happened. I wasn't doing anything. It's because you were being passive watching the movie. You weren't thinking about sleep, but your sleep drive was high enough that you were able to feel sleepy. And then the sleep drive takes over and it makes it happen automatically. So knowing that, you have to get out of the mindset of how do I force sleep to happen and get into the mindset of how do I facilitate my body's own natural process of sleep, right? And the way you do that is you have to handle the mental and emotional stress in your mind, change your thought patterns of how you look at sleep and what, how to facilitate it to happen. And you got to change your beliefs and your habits and your actions to match that of what a good sleeper does. And that's what we're going over here. So you have to go from doubting that sleep is going to happen at whatever night it is to realizing that sleep happens automatically when you allow it to happen and you facilitate it to happen. Okay, so what we're going to go over is exactly how to do that. And essentially it comes down to, like I said, reducing that stress and anxiety going on in your brain, right, in your mind, and distracting yourself from the desire to cause sleep to happen, right? You just want to instead get into a passive state by maybe just watching TV, watching your phone, listening to a podcast, reading a book. It can be anything at all, as long as it's something that you enjoy doing. And that's very key, because if it's something you don't enjoy, it's not going to be very fun, and it's not going to reduce that cortisol. When you do, in fact, it might raise it, especially if it's something you don't like, which is common advice out there, to do something boring to try and make yourself sleep. It won't work. It'll actually make things worse because you're going to get frustrated because no one likes to do things that are boring. So the key is you want to do things you enjoy. And don't be afraid of blue light at all, because it's never been proven to actually cause insomnia. And in fact, most of our devices, we're far enough away from them and so that they're not actually even bright enough to cause any problems with the melatonin as well. So for me personally, I watch TV every night. I used to be so afraid of blue light. I have every pair of blue light blocking glasses there is. And now I purposely never use them. And I'm in front of the computer screen and the TV screen and my phone screen every single night, and they don't affect my sleep at all. Because I now know that, like I said, they're not even bright enough to cause any problems. But before, even though they weren't doing anything, because of my belief that they were, it was causing me problems with sleep. And if I didn't have my blue blockers on all night long, up until the exact moment I closed my eyes and went to bed, I would worry and freak out that my sleep was somehow compromised. And now I purposely don't use any of those things just because I realize they don't do anything. And it's just so crazy once you break free of those false beliefs that you need this stuff, right? You don't have to worry about any of it. So beliefs is very important. Next is the habits of good sleepers versus insomniacs. And the biggest one that good sleepers have is that they go to bed and they wake up around the same time every single day, okay? And they don't actually think about it, right? And so insomniacs, like I was saying earlier, they go to bed at all kinds of different times. They wake up early, they go to bed early. Their schedule's all over the place, right? And it's very difficult for the body to develop a consistent sleep drive every single day if your sleep schedule's all over the place. Now, the mistake that most insomniacs make is they try to focus on bedtime over anything else. When the truth is, you want to focus on the time that you wake up much more than the time that you go to bed. Okay, and the reason why is because if you lock in your wake up time, you can be sure that you do not try to go to bed until at least 17 hours have passed, right? Like I was saying before, that 17-hour rule. So if you wake up every single day at 6 a.m. or whatever it is, like clockwork, then you know that by the time 11 comes around, it'll have been 17 hours. And that's when you can start to expect to feel sleepy. Now, when 11 comes, you don't want to try to force yourself to go to bed right at that time. You want to wait until you feel sleepy and then try to go to bed. But whatever happens, you want to make sure that you wake up at the same time every single day, because that way you have some control and you actually know what's going on with your sleep window. And if you happen to sleep in one day or try to take a really long nap or something like that, and the night comes and you can't sleep, well, you know why. It's because your sleep drive's not built to a high enough level. So you got to find something to do to pass the time. And it's best that be something you enjoy doing so that while you're waiting for your sleep drive to build up, you're not sitting there frustrated, annoyed, and bored, which then will cause the hyperarousal, and whatever amount of sleep drive you have, it's not going to work. So that's the number one habit that good sleepers have that you need to develop as an insomniac. Next is the relationship with wakefulness. Now, like I was saying earlier, when an insomniac can't sleep, they're stuck awake or they can't get back to sleep, they get very upset. They get very worried. They start to freak out and think that something is very wrong with them. When, like I was explaining, it's just part of the sleep cycles that our body goes through. It's completely normal. Whereas good sleepers, if they wake up, they're totally cool about it. They're totally calm, collected, no big deal. In fact, they pay so little attention that they don't even remember that it happened the next day. Right? So you need to develop that trust in your brain and in your mind that if you wake up in the middle of the night, it's totally fine. There's no reason to panic. So you need to retrain your brain that being awake at night is not a threat. There's nothing bad that's going to happen. There's no need for that fight or flight response to kick in and cause you to be wide awake and aware as if there was like a tiger in your room or something crazy like that. Next is the attention and focus of a good sleeper versus an insomniac. Good sleepers focus their attention outward when it's bedtime, right? They watch TV, they watch a video, they listen to something, right? They put their attention away from their inner, what's going on inside, and this allows that sleep drive to take over and cause sleep to happen. Whereas bad sleepers or insomniacs, they focus inward. They go, okay, am I tired yet? Am I falling asleep? Am I doing the right thing? Is the room, am I cold enough? Am I in enough darkness? Is like they're looking inward, right? And that's why, and that causes that hyperarousal to happen, which causes the stress hormones to go up. So you want to shift your attention to things outside of yourself so that you're distracted and comfortable and calm and doing something you enjoy so that sleep will happen to you, right? That's why they call it falling asleep instead of jumping asleep, right? It has to happen to us passively. Next is the topic of self-image or identity. Insomniacs, they consider themselves to be insomniacs, and they have that identity that they've built within themselves, mostly due to the fact that you haven't slept in so long, that you've had these problems for so long that you start to convince yourself, this is just who I am now. This is how it is, right? Whereas good sleepers, they don't link their sleep to their self-image. Right? If they sleep well, no big deal. If they don't sleep well, no big deal. So what you want to do, like I was saying earlier, is you need to think about, are you pedestalizing good sleep? Are you making it so that, nothing can be good in your life unless you slept well the night before? Because if you are, that's putting a lot of pressure on your sleep. It's going to cause you to have problems with your sleep. And on the other hand, are you getting way too upset about the fact that you didn't sleep well, beating yourself up, telling yourself negative things, causing yourself self-harm, or maybe even other people getting mad at people because you didn't sleep well, right? And blaming it on the fact that you didn't sleep well. Either one of those is not the answer. The answer is to realize that if you've made it this far without being able to sleep well and you're still here, it's obviously not the end of the world if you're having trouble sleeping. And on the other hand, just because you're sleeping well doesn't mean all the problems of the world is going to go away for you. Right? A lot of them will, and you'll feel a whole lot better, and you'll be a lot better able to handle these problems, but they're not all going to go away instantly, right? So the key is to just have a neutral outlook on it. As you're fixing your sleep, you want to, yes, celebrate your wins, but don't overly celebrate, and don't beat yourself up about the bad nights, right? Just realize that you're on a journey, on a process of healing this issue, and is going to be ups and downs until you get to a point where it's just neutrality. And that's where you're going to be at the best possible position to have consistent nights of good sleep. Okay, now how do you use this information to actually help yourself sleep better tonight? First thing to remember, set a consistent wake time, right? So if that's 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever it is, stick to it. You don't have to get out of bed at that wake up time, but you don't want to go back to sleep until the 17 hours have passed, okay? And wait until you feel actually sleepy before you try and go to bed. Second, get rid of the sleep trackers. Don't use them for at least a month and see the difference. Third, don't freak out if you wake up in the middle of the night or you can't sleep. Just try and practice a calm acceptance about it and realize that it doesn't mean anything about your personal self-worth. It's just part of the process. Also avoid naps, avoid sleeping in, and avoid going to bed early because these things can disrupt your sleep drive. Have some things fun to do if you can't fall asleep, or if it's your bedtime and you're not quite ready for sleep yet, or if you wake up in the middle of the night to distract you from thoughts of the fact that you're awake. And finally, forgive yourself for whatever harm you've caused yourself, and forgive others and apologize to others that you may have said mean things to or been rude to about this problem in the past. Now, if this video was helpful for you, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to learn more about how to become a good sleeper, then watch either one of these next two videos, and I'll see you there. Have a great day.